So some quick distributive property review. Distributive property is essentially a multiplication problem. Could be division, it might look that way, but we know that multiplication and division go together. They're counterparts to each other, especially when we use fractions. So the first thing we want to look at is something like 2 by 6 plus 10, or 2 times the sum of 6 plus 10. So we want to know that that sum comes from that plus. If we saw another problem, something like 2 times 3 minus 8, it would be 2 times the difference of 3 and 8. And so we want to use those words, sum, difference, really to communicate what we mean. So let's look at the first one. A lot of people call this a rainbow. A lot of people look at it a different way. Basically what you're saying is we're going to take this 2 and we're going to move it over into both of these through multiplication. Now I know you're thinking, hey, wait a minute, I see parentheses, I can do PEMDAS here. Yeah, you can. This is just an illustration and I'll show you how it works either way. So we do 2 times 6, which gives us 12, and that's plus 20. Comes out to be 32. So let's look at it backwards and say, okay, we knew there were parentheses, so we want to check this to work it out. So this would really be 2 by 16, which as you work that out, you could do distributive property kind of by unit here, by unit place, by decimal, or not say decimal place, but ones place and tens places. You could do 2 times 6, which is just kind of in your head, that would be 12. 2 times 1 is 2, plus that 1 we carried from the 12, 32. So our answers are going to be the same either way. This is just a way to show you the distributive property still with integers and no variables thrown in yet. So let's look at this one with the difference. 2 times the difference of 3 and 8. So we're going to look at it again. We'll go ahead and use a different color. There you go. 2 by 3 will be 6 times 2. Now this one's a little bit different. This negative, and a lot of people question, is this a negative 8 or a minus 8? It's the same thing, but when we're doing this with multiplication, all of this goes together. So it's really negative 8 there if we're going to multiply in. That negative has to go. So it'll be 2 times negative 8, and we see that as negative 16. So 6 minus 16 comes out to be negative 10. Just to see it, let's go ahead and simplify the parentheses. That would be 2 times negative 5. 2 times negative 5 is negative 10. So either way with integers, you can do PEMDAS, you can do distributive property, it'll work out. Get one with a variable. All right, so let's look at something like 3 times m plus 7. Okay, nothing special at the m other than it represents a number that we don't know. A lot of times you'll see x, sometimes you'll see y. It doesn't really matter. We're not solving for anything. There's no equal sign. We're just simplifying this. So when we put this in, it's the same idea. We're doing 3 times the sum of, remember, sum right here, sum of m and 7. Work it in, 3 times m. So we had 3m. Then we're going to take that 3 multiplied by the 7. So we're going to have 3 times 7, and we kind of carry that positive with it. We don't really think about it when it's the sum, but we're going to see it as positive 7. So 3 times positive 7 is 21. And we can't really do anything with that anymore. It's distributed, it's in, that's what I'm going to leave it as. Let's look at one more, this time with a difference. So we're going to look at 7 times h minus 10, or 7 times the difference of h and 10. And so this one in blue, we're going to go 7 times h, okay, 7h. They just go together like that. Now again, we're going to take this one, look at 7 and negative 10 here. That minus is going to go with that, say negative 10. We're going to have 7 times negative 10, which is negative 70. That's where it's going to be. All right, and that's our final answer as well. Go ahead and draw your arrow there, just so you see it's times both. Let's look at one with 3. So if we had 4 times the sum of x, y, and 8. All right, that looks very intimidating. It's really not that bad. Each one is a separate term. Each one has a different variable to it. This one doesn't have a variable at all. It's just a constant number. X is a separate variable than Y, so they can't go together. So there's really no PEMDAS that we can clean this up with, but we can distribute the 4. So as we look at this, we're just going to go all the way in. So it's going to be 4 times X, which will give me 4X, plus 4Y, and then 4 times 8, which is 32. All right. One more with 3, just to see if you can get it. I'll try to throw your curveball a little bit. Oh, we already did 4. Let's go with something else. Let's go with 9 times M plus N minus 3. All right, so hopefully you already see the curveball. It's in there. So kind of some different ways to say this would be 9 times the sum of M, N, and negative 3, right? We group that together. Or it could be 9 times M plus N and the difference of 3. So just some different ways to see those symbols in there. It's a little bit difficult to say. It doesn't really make sense. So I'm going to go ahead and do this. I have 9 times M, 9M. 9 times N is 9N. And then I'm going to go ahead and change colors just so you see this one's different. Remember, this is negative 3, so that changes us to negative 27. And the colors don't really matter, just other than something different to see there. One more type that I want to show you. It's a little bit different. It looks like it's already been distributed. It's going to be 3x, the sum of 3x and 9, all divided by 3. Now this is a distributive property problem 2. It's already kind of set up though. You see this division bar goes all the way underneath everything, which means this 3 needs to go into both of these terms. Another way to write this, and like I said, we kind of talk about fractions here, would be 1/3. 1/3 times 3x plus 9. That's going to be the last one you see. It's not that big a deal. These are the same type of problem. We're just going to look at it a little bit different. So we're going to take 1/3 of 3x. Now the x just kind of hangs with it. So 1/3 of 3 is just x. And then 1/3 of 9 is 3. So the final there is x plus 3. Hopefully this helped you kind of see some different types of distributive properties, some different things that you'll see. Remember, the key words there will be increased, sum, decreased, and difference. And really look at the symbols that will be inside those parentheses. That'll tell you a lot about what's going on and a lot about how to handle this best.